Wait just 1 second.
Rolling in.
Every episode of one.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same. It's like nothing. Can't think of anything else to watch, so watch that again.
Oh, I watch it all the time. Late night,
Yeah,
I'll be
it's
flipping
hilarious.
channels.
That pumpkin was awesome. No, yeah, that pumpkin donut was like cream cheese, something. What was that? The pumpkin one, or the Thanksgiving one? That's right. Yeah, the pumpkin spice. Yeah.
Is that sugar free?
Yes. Yeah.
I might try one.
Try too. Sorry, I got two of them.
Did you bring some donuts, Darren? Did you bring some donuts?
Don't you know how to warm up a crowd?
I know that's what you got to do, man. Before we discuss these issues, how about a nice, tasty, delicious donut? Yeah.
I know I feel better about when you get there starving.
Yeah, I know I think better when I'm eating a donut. How about you guys?
I think whatever Darren wants.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if we have, like, you know, snacks and somebody brings us donuts or cake or something, a lot of times people will be in the office like, you want a donut or cake? I'm like, no. But if it's a cop, they're like, yeah, make 3.
3.
Where's cake? They'll eat it.
You know, some of those vendors send me stuff. Big box of cookies, you know, those wrapped.
Oh, yeah, right.
Or cereal or something. As soon as I got it, I took it. This guy came high school and dropped it off. Because I was going to eat
Yeah, yeah.
So I just dropped them off.
We used to have somebody bring a dozen donuts over to our office.
You tell them.
I'd be like, yeah. So they're eating 3 donuts.
We don't say things like that.
Is he okay?
We don't talk like
join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Coachman, will you lead us, please?
Yes, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Ms. Hamilton, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hostetler? Here. Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace,
Here.
Mr. Foreman,
Present.
Mr. Ellison,
Here.
Mr. Davila,
Here.
Mr. Livingston,
He's with us.
okay, Mr. Culbertson,
Here.
Judge Covington.
Present. All right. Would you check on that? Make sure he can hear. And then we'll turn our attention to number 4 on our agenda. The minutes from our previous meeting was shared via email. Are there any questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler. Second from Mr. Davila. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, transfers as presented in your packet. Any questions or comments related to those transfers? Motion from Mr. Lyons. Second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 6, bills and hand checks as presented. Any questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler. Second from Mr. Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, please let the record reflect that Mr. Alvin Lyons completed his training unit. Number 8, Ordinance 2216, second reading, distillery spirits storage. Cam, would you take it from here?
Yes, sir. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 22-16, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, and the cities of Georgetown, Sadieville, and Stamping Ground pertaining to distillery spirit storage. Whereas the Georgetown Scott County Planning Commission has approved a text amendment to the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, and the cities of Georgetown, Sadieville, and Stamping Ground zoning ordinance regarding distillery spirit storage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. 1. The zoning ordinance is amended as follows. Section 2.1, definitions. Distillery spirit storage facility, structure used to store wooden barrels containing distilled spirits in a rack or palletized system, limited to a maximum of 40,000 square feet in size and 60 feet in height. Distillery spirits, beverages obtained by the distillation from wine, fermented fruit, or plant juice, or from starch material that has been first brewed, having an alcohol content higher than that of beer or wine. Section 4.1A, 1 districts. Section 4.12, conditional uses. L, distilled spirit storage in an unincorporated area of Scott County. Prior to approval of a conditional use permit hereunder, the Board of Adjustment must consider the impact of the proposed use upon surrounding properties and ensure that the character of the area is protected. This type of establishment shall not be considered as altering the agricultural or residential character of a particular area and shall not be justification for zoning map amendments to distilled spirit storage sites or adjoining properties. Any conditional use permit issued hereunder must meet the mandatory requirements for approval set out in KRS 100.237, Section 2.33 of this ordinance, as well as the following mandatory requirements. 1. The site shall be a minimum of 100 contiguous acres in size, including all land parcels proposed for the use and controlled by the applicant, whether leased or owned by the applicant, and inclusive of public or private rights-of-way or easements on the subject properties or public right-of-way dedicated for road improvements to serve the subject property. 2. The construction type shall be limited to pallet or rack-supported structures protected throughout by an automatic fire suppression sprinkler system per NFPA standards for rack storage, occupancy, and building spacing. Sprinklers in each building to be connected to a common fire department connection, FDC, located in the public street outside the perimeter with a hydrant within 50 feet of the FDC. Fire hydrants shall be installed inside the perimeter of the developed site, spaced at a maximum of 300 feet. 3. At the time of the filing of any application for a building permit, the developer shall be responsible for demonstrating public water lines and hydrants shall be available to the site sufficient to provide fire protection per county fire department standards. 4, the maximum size of any single structure shall be 40,000 square feet, excluding stairwells and open docks, and shall not exceed 60 feet in height. 5, all structures shall be set back a minimum of 200 feet from property lines at the perimeter of the site, adjacent to all residential districts or uses. 6, applicants shall demonstrate that they have an adequate containment system to prevent release of the product into the groundwater or surface water in the event of a building collapse. 7, at least 25% of the property shall be dedicated to agricultural uses as defined by KRS 100 and/or preserved as a conservation area. 8, measures must be taken to ensure that all distilled spirit storage in the unincorporated area of Scott County is undertaken in a manner which minimizes increased traffic congestion on existing streets, roads, and intersections. All developments shall be located with primary access on at least a collector road street with pavement width of at least 20 feet and should be improved with shoulders at least 3 feet in width. 9, the warehouse density shall be limited to 1 per 10 acres of overall land area. Multiple warehouses may be grouped on site as long as the overall density is maintained and spacing between buildings meets all applicable fire and building codes. Driveway spacing between buildings shall be adequate for access by fire apparatus, a minimum of 25 feet width, exclusive of parking areas. 2 points of access shall be provided from a public street with a minimum gate width of 20 feet. 10, the warehouses should be effectively screened from adjoining residential areas by utilizing natural topography and/or tree lines first, and if not practical, to screen from any adjoining residential areas by new plantings, berms, or grading to create an effective year-round screen. 2, effective date. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication. First reading approved November 22nd, 2022. Adopted, if you vote that way, upon second reading December 9th, 2022.
Questions, comments? To be a motion. Motion from Mr. Corman, second from Mr. Ellison. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move down to ordinance 2217, first reading, flock cameras. Appreciate, this was suggested by Alvin, and Rick brought it back up, and then Cam, you have drafted this, and
Yes, sir. And
appreciate you. What do you want to say?
I was just going to say, I think Lieutenant Betson has reviewed it, and they're going to draft some policies too.
Yes.
And that may be
Would you
what
like
he's
to
holding
make
his hand.
comment, Lieutenant Betson?
I have the policy written, I just have one copy. I can email it to you, Judge, and you can just.
We'll do this first reading, then if you will disperse that with Stacy, and Stacy will get it in everybody's hands. I think that's the intent of the spirit of what Alvin mentioned and Rick as well, and I think everybody, I know everybody's read this. I'll let Cam read it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 22-17, an ordinance pertaining to license plate reader cameras. Whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court, Scott County, has approved the purchase of flock safety license plate reader, or LPR, cameras for use by the Scott County Sheriff's Office, and whereas Scott County recognizes that there are legitimate and important law enforcement purposes for using these cameras, and whereas Scott County recognizes that its citizens have important privacy rights, and whereas, having recognized these important interests, the members of the Scott County Fiscal Court, to add that in, so I'll send you that, Stacey, desire to adopt an ordinance establishing guidelines for the use of LPR cameras in Scott County. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. It is the policy of the Scott County Fiscal Court to authorize the Scott County Sheriff's Office to utilize LPR technology to capture and store digital license plate data and images while recognizing the established privacy rights of the public. 2, the Scott County Sheriff's Office shall implement detailed policies and procedures regarding the operation and use of LPR technology to provide guidance for the capture, storage, and use of digital data obtained using LPR technology. 3, the Scott County Sheriff's Office may use LPR technology to help solve crimes and recover stolen vehicles by using LPR technology to capture computer-readable images of license plates, which will allow law enforcement agencies to compare plate numbers against those of stolen cars, cars driven by people suspected of being involved in criminal activities, missing persons, Amber Alerts, and assisting in criminal investigations. In doing so, the Sheriff's Office may use LPR technology to capture still images of the rear of a vehicle passing by the camera, including the license plate, make, and model of the vehicle. The image may be collected and stored for 30 days and then deleted unless identified as part of a criminal investigation. 4. The use of LPR technology for traffic violation enforcement, revenue collection, or facial recognition is prohibited. 5. The use of LPR technology to capture images of pedestrians walking is prohibited. 6. All installation and maintenance of LPR equipment, as well as LPR data retention and access, shall be managed as determined by the Scott County Sheriff or designee. The Sheriff will assign a supervisor to administer the day-to-day operation of the LPR equipment and data. 7. The Sheriff's Office shall use LPR systems only for legitimate law enforcement and public safety purposes. Information gathered or collected and records retained by Department LPR system cameras will not be accessed or used for any purpose other than legitimate law enforcement or public safety purposes. 8. The LPR administrator shall ensure that LPRs are not deployed or used to enforce the law in any discriminatory manner that is prohibited by the United States Constitution and laws, the Commonwealth of Kentucky Constitution and laws, or Scott County ordinances. 9. Officers shall not use or allow others to use the LPR equipment or database records for any unauthorized purpose. 10. Except when done pursuant to a court order such as a search warrant, it is a violation of this ordinance to utilize the LPR to record license plates except those of vehicles that are exposed to public view. Example, vehicles on a public road or street, or that are on private property but whose license plates are visible from a public road, street, or place to which members of the public have access, such as the parking lot of a shop or other business establishment. 11. The LPR system shall not be used to harass and or intimidate any individual or group. 12. The LPR system or associated scan files or hot lists shall not be used for any personal purpose. 13. This ordinance shall become effective upon the date of its passage. First reading approved December 9th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Would there be a motion? Motion, Mr. Lyons. Second from Mr. Ellison. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. That will take us down to Resolution 2218, Planning Commission Goals and Objectives. Joe Kane is with us today. We did note one change, EN 1.3, I believe is the correct one. Just had mentioned about reservoir property and the reservoir and water quality, and that that is not going to be permitted, so we might as well take it out. Joe, would you like to make any comment before we go forward with the resolution?
I'd just like to say that we're taking these goals and objectives to all the legislative bodies. This is the first hearing we're having, so we haven't gotten on the agenda with the city yet. So if there are any changes, we can make them as needed now. And I'd rather do that now than before we take it to anybody else.
On the front end is definitely good.
Yeah.
Questions or comments for Joe?
So you want to strike that EN 1.3?
Yes, that's the one that's been changed.
Yeah.
And then, Cam, you have the resolution.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to read it, please?
Yes, sir. Scott County Fiscal Court, Resolution Number 22-18. Whereas after all required notices, consultation, review, and public hearing, the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission adopted its recommended 2022 update of the Comprehensive Plan Statement of Goals and Objectives at a meeting held November 10th, 2022. The recommended 2022 Statement of Goals and Objectives includes revision and reporting of the goals and objectives for each required element of the plan. And whereas after required notices, review, and consultation, the Statement of Goals and Objectives was presented to the Scott County Fiscal Court at its regular meeting held December 9th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows: that the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission's recommended 2022 update to the Comprehensive Plan Statement of Goals and Objectives is approved and adopted as appropriately providing guidance for public and private actions and decisions to assure the development of public and private property in the most appropriate relationship pursuant to KRS 100.183 and what follows, done this 9th day of December 2022.
Questions or comments?
One question.
Yes, sir.
The timeline, I know this is a 5-year update. When do we have to be at the end of this, the whole process? Is that what this starts, or?
Yeah, well, by law, we need to review it every 5 years and re-adopt. The only thing that we really have to do through the legislative bodies is adopt the goals and objectives, like amend and re-adopt the goals and objectives. The plan itself only has to go to the Planning Commission. We'll bring it back to all the legislative bodies for approval, but this meets our 5-year obligation.
That's what thank you, Joe. That's what I thought.
Anything else?
No.
Any other questions? Would there be a motion? Motion from Kelly Corman, second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Resolution 2219, Hazard Mitigation Plan. We discussed this last in our work session. Any comments or questions before Cam reads this resolution? And it's a short one.
I almost done reading that thing for a while.
Yes.
Resolution, whereas the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, or DMA 2000, Public Law 106-390, reinforces the importance of pre-disaster infrastructure mitigation planning to reduce disaster losses nationwide. Whereas the mitigation planning provisions outlined in Section 332 of the Act establish performance-based standards for mitigation plans and require states to develop county and city government hazard mitigation plans. And whereas a collaborative effort between the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management and Bluegrass Area Development District has resulted in the development of the Scott County, City of Georgetown / City of Sadieville / City of Stamping Ground Hazard Mitigation Plan measures and goals and objectives, thus fulfilling the stipulations of DMA 2000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scott County Fiscal Court hereby authorizes the approval of the attached Scott County, City of Georgetown, City of Sadieville, City of Stamping Ground Hazard Mitigation Plan measures and goals and objectives as the official hazard mitigation plan measures and goals and objectives of Scott County pending FEMA approval. Approved this 9th day of December 2022.
Questions or comments?
Judge, our copy says section 322. I think he said 332 when he
Did I
read.
misspeak? It's possible. Probably just misspoke. It says 3. Yeah, I misspoke. It says
322.
My apologies, Alvin.
Would there be a motion? Motion from Mr. Wallace, second by Mr. Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Number 12, Project Management and Compliance proposal from CTC Technology. I've shared this with you all. I've expressed that the funds for this are actually in the grant to cover this compliance piece and documentation piece, and having the assistance from CTC I think would be very valuable. Any questions or comments regarding to that?
I know they mentioned they gave their hourly rate and what they're asking for in total, but the timeline they're just going to track with as long as the grants.
Correct. Like right now, they are working with Charter on the report that is due at the end of December. There are just periodic, continuing reporting to the federal government about progress. So that's what they will ride this all the way out to final completion.
You think that's 2 years?
I hope less.
Sure.
Now, I'll give you all an update from Ben Ucelis. You know, they actually started construction, but they now have 5 crews, aerial crews working, and 3 digging, boring crews. There's not a lot of boring, tunneling to do, but they've got 3 crews working. JR went out, he was out nearby on Bonds the other day and took some pictures. We're going to get those up
on social media. We're hoping to have a map. I've been after them about the map, and corporate America is hesitant to put out maps. But I'm optimistic that we'll get something that shows where they're working on which OLT, where they're going, and what they've completed. I think our community needs that information. So I do think that this agreement's very important, and it keeps us straight.
I agree with that. They were very helpful in the beginning of
Yeah.
this process. Very helpful. I'll make that.
Motion from Mr. Hostetler. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Dobla. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That will lead us to number 13, jail policy SOP update. Jailer Broyles, would you like to address the court? Good morning.
Good morning, Judge. How you doing?
We're good.
Good. Yeah, I submitted to the court some policy changes down at the jail, reference personnel. And the personnel change was going from a full-time allotment, I think until the end of this year anyway, the end of this fiscal year, to help us budgetarily possibly offset a hourly raise for the staff down there to help with recruitment and with retention. So that was one issue. I think the other thing was the fitness requirement.
Yeah.
I just want Mr. Wallace and the whole court to know, I don't have to bring, every time I make a change to the SOPs, I do not have to bring them to you all immediately for approval. Now, I do have to get them updated, reviewed, and approved by you guys annually, but each time I make a change, or if I have to make a change, it's my understanding I've got the latitude as the department head, as the jailer, to go ahead and make those changes without coming to you guys to get that approved.
Who gave you that understanding?
It's my reading of the statute.
Okay. Because I talked to Keiko, and I talked to the attorney for Keiko, and he said that what you're saying is correct to an extent, that you do need to notify the fiscal court, because if you decide to change or you try to not follow all the SOPs, the increased liability comes on the fiscal court. You do have to notify us what you're doing, but you're exactly right. You don't have to change it until till we review it annually.
And I agree with you. I understand that point of view. And if it had been something major, I would have advised the court. I saw this as kind of an administrative change that I could do to try to help us with recruitment at the jail, and I thought that could just be addressed at our annual review of the SOPs. So,
well, according to our insurance provider, please notify us if you do that, because we understand the liability that would be assumed in case there's something happening.
And I do understand that. Yes.
What questions would anyone else have about what Jailer Broyles is requesting? Jailer Broyles is requesting to strike the physical agility test content, and then also to strike from 30 to 26 full-time staff till the end of the year.
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year. I'm sorry, that's a good point. And with that, though, what we have to decide is if we're going to strike that 30 to 26, it needs, is there a motion from somebody on this court to make a recommendation about a change in hourly rate, an amendment. Now, we've shared information. The total budget for wages, retirement, and Social Security, and this includes 15% OT, but Michelle, you make sure I'm right. I don't believe that part-time is in this number. It's 2.281572. So if we cut it to 26, with the current number, with the current people, and then went to 26, we're projecting to finish the year at 2.208, 245.31. In two conversations, or in conversations we had in meetings, the one option of adding 28 cents an hour to get the start to $17 was discussed. The other option was a dollar. I'll let you comment on either one of those and what you'd like to share with the court related to that.
It is just, I feel that The driving force today, in today's economy, with today's applicants, with us getting applications, with us retaining quality individuals, with us getting quality individuals to even apply, the driving force is the pay. And we are behind 3 of the counties that surround us in pay. And Woodford County specifically, I know they just raised it recently, but they're at $18.50 an hour to start out. We're not even in the ballpark and competing where I think we should be competing for those same applicants that want to work in corrections. So anything would be a help. Anything I think would be a help, and the greater amount would be the greater help in both retention and recruitment.
So are you saying your request is for $1 an hour?
I would request as much as the fiscal court would consider. $1 would be great.
So just to let everybody know, if you went $1 and added 8 to get to 26, the projected numbers would be 2.317,319.56. If you went 28 cents and got to $17, part of my mind is when you advertise and you say starting pay $17 or higher, it is just to me a difference instead of $16.70 or whatever. If you went to $17, you would then be very comparable to, or you'd be the same as I believe Jessamine, Franklin, and then Oldham was $17.04. Yes, Woodford County still at $18.50. So, I understand, but there are other, we've had like 60% turnover in the last year. Of those people that have left, my understanding is that 2 of those individuals that have left have gone to other detention centers. And both of those individuals went to detention centers that were in their hometown. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot across America. I would say across Kentucky as well. Staffing is critical not only in corrections, but it's critical and there's issues with staffing across the board and everywhere we look. I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't know if adding $1 is equitable on many issues because of since 2019, we've almost raised pay at the detention center by almost $5. I mean, I think we have done our work to make sure that all of our employees are being compensated at a market-based rate that has data to back up the median. I believe the figures that we're using and the work that's been done is valid, and we have supported our workforce very much. And then you look at the benefits too, but I don't disagree with what you've said, Jiller Burrows, that a lot of people in today's society, they don't look at the benefits as much.
And Judge, if I can just say, I am extremely appreciative of what the court has done in the past, and I recognize it. The staff recognizes the court's efforts in trying to get their pay up in the last few years as well. So we are appreciative of that. It's just right now we're just struggling to get help and maintain.
What's our number today?
I believe it's 21 full-timers that we have out of 30.
Okay. So what comments or questions does anyone have? Mr. Wallace.
Judge, I think we have to look at this 2 different ways. I think we have to look at the SOPs, and we have to take a vote on whether we're going to approve the SOPs or vote them down. And then I think we have to look at the raise separate. And to me, that it makes it cleaner for me because they're two separate actions. But I think that's what I feel like.
I don't think it'd be. I don't disagree with you at all. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, if we're going to adjust the number of employees, we have to adjust the hourly rate. Do you agree with that?
Well, but there's 2 parts that's going to be changed in the SOPs. It's the physical fitness part of it and the employees. So we could, I guess, technically vote on one change on the physical aspect of it and then do.
Okay, well, let's deal with that then.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to adjust and amend the recommendations of Jailer Broyles on the striking the physical agility sections, test sections from the SOPs. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, I'd make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second? A second. Questions or comments about that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's taken care of. I appreciate that cleaning of that piece up now.
Before you start
So,
your next comment,
anybody else can make a comment now. Kelly, you go ahead.
and I missed the last meeting, so I apologize because I may repeat something, but I know these.
The flu was not good.
The flu was not good. I didn't even feel like getting on Zoom.
Appreciate you missing it, that's what you had.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Glad you're back.
But here's my thought. I don't have a problem going with the 30 to 26. It frees up money for us to possibly give a raise. And I know this is a two-part issue. And in my mind, it's like if we think that 28 cents, if that was the number, would help, maybe we could pass that and then come back in 3 months. And if we've not started seeing the staff increase, look at a possible raise then. Because 28 cents is a pretty good jump, I think. But that's my comments. And
Getting to $17 is
I think that helps.
when you
And
put it
may
out.
need to be more, but I
Right.
think time will tell. We just need to kind of watch that. But it's hard to make a big jump like that maybe at one time.
Alvin?
You know, I want to find an answer to this, but most every department could say most of what you said, every one of them. And we've done a lot of work to establish this market-based, pay scale structure that we've got. And if you go picking apart one department at a time, it's just going to destroy that. I just can't see picking one department. I mean, when we've done this much work to make it, to study markets like we have, I can't pick out one department and change, because everybody could say most of what you said. Yours is more extreme right now, I understand, but that's my thought.
Actually, being back up to 21 helps. But what other comments from anyone?
How many applicants do you have? I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
Hold on. David, can you get closer to the microphone?
It's easier.
David, in my opinion, if you rate, and I share the same concerns that Alvin has. And I said when I started, I support and believe that the work we've done, the median that we have set is valid. Do we have to continue looking at it every year? Yes, there's no question. But if we raise 28 cents to start, in my opinion, because of pay compression and all the other, you have to do 28 cents for all in the staff. And the number that I've shared is reflected in the data for all staff members. That 28 cents on the information I shared, that number of 2.238786, that's for adding 28 cents to every employee in the detention center.
And I'd like to make a comment to Alvin's comment, because I know where you're coming from, but I also think it's creative to look from going from 30 to 26. And that aspect, I like it that, I know that he needs people and he's trying to look at a staff that'll make it work. But if other departments came and said, hey, we think we can get by with 6 less employees, but we'd like to pay the other ones more, I'd be willing to listen to it. But I think that's a good compromise.
But
That's
Judge,
what I would say. He's got to meet the game,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that does help me for that 28 cents.
David Livingston?
Sure. I guess what I was talking about is even if you give 28 cents to every staff member at the jail, you're still causing salary compression because it's not a fair percentage increase across the board.
David, I can't disagree with you. Jeff, would you like to comment on that, or?
Well, I think what David's getting at is that, the percentage increase for a deputy jailer when it's 28 cents is about 1.5%, maybe up closer to 2%. But we do with a higher paid employee, like lieutenants, sergeants, whatnot, the 28 cents is a little.
Is not a high percentage, but
Yeah.
I don't know anyway. If we add 28 cents to the start, I don't see how you could not do that across all deputy jailers, staff at the detention center. And David, I certainly respect what you're saying, and I'll go back to what Alvin said, and I think my comments have been consistent that, you know, the work that we've done, you know, since 2019 is, in my mind, I think very valid, and we have got good numbers, and yes, it has to continually be looked at, but you do that during the budget process. And
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say, Judge. In a couple of months, we're starting the budget process. You know, I think that's the time then you reflect upon our pay scale, which we have to vote on and approve. That's when you can make that change where we would look at it for all employees, not just one department.
yeah.
I do see that, you know, you're looking at $11 a month or a week is all a person would even gain, you know, so it's not like a huge month, but I do think $17, when you tell somebody $17 versus $16.70, you know, when you're trying to go out there and compete for new people, and maybe that is still something we do 2 or 3 months from now, but I do think as we look at salaries in general, when we do those adjustments, I do think we need to look at rounding up. You know, we don't need to leave something at $16.93 when we're out there competing for, you know, and I'm talking about every department from now on. It does matter when you're recruiting out there.
No, it's just the perception.
Yes. You say, you know, like buy something 99 cents or whatever, you know, it's a dollar.
And I will say, just so everybody understands, that, you know, I've worked to make sure that we're going to have our 2 new magistrates go visit the Grant County Detention Center. I want them to visit your detention center. And in January, we're going to schedule a special work session to just discuss and lay out the proposal from Grant County about a regional detention center. We will look at all of the positives, we'll look at all the challenges, and then this body will have to make a decision on which way they want to go. The other piece that has been mentioned recently was, could a contract work to send X number of inmates, state and county, to Grant County? And I have talked to Judge Dills about this. Judge Dills shares his only concern is, and he needs time to look at, you know, what is financially feasible for them. Their issue is the same as us, that what we're talking about right now. Their issue is staffing. And what number of a guarantee on an annual basis would be enough for him to be able to attract more staff to address his current inmate number plus whatever number we sent. So that option's being discussed and evaluated, and I've talked to Judge Dills about that as well. So in January, we're going to be back talking about this regional proposal and looking at the positives and the challenges and discussing all of that. And this body will make that decision. So any other comments? Rick?
Since you brought that up about potentially a contract type thing, rather than possibly the regional jail, I think that's what you're talking about.
That was what was requested,
Right.
and
Sure.
and we've.
Well, so I think the conversation from our last meeting, or I guess from our workshop, let me clarify, from our previous workshop, one of the comments was about taking the state inmates up there. So what does the state, just so I don't have to go from memory, what does the state reimburse Scott County?
3431. Is that right?
That sounds right. They just changed it.
They just
last year.
changed it.
Yeah, so it's
And that's
30
on a daily basis.
About 3431's right.
I think that's the right number.
So I would, and maybe this is getting a little bit off the topic, but in my mind, it's not, because we're trying to figure out how to staff. And I think some of I kind of have to agree with almost everything that's been said, but the bottom line is, well, let me go back to my original question. I'll come back to this. What I was going to ask when David was chiming in there, how many folks do you have in the hopper now that's got an application in? Do you have anybody?
That have applications in.
To,
Any applications, interviews set up? That's kind of what you're
yeah,
asking.
right. I
Yeah,
don't,
we had a couple of interviews scheduled this week. They both canceled. Actually, one canceled, one didn't show up. I think maybe, and Jeff just refreshed the online application, so it went back to the top kind of these websites that it utilizes, and that helped. That got us a handful of applications in, maybe 7 or 8. And I've reached out to some, but not all of those yet. And then we've got the old list of some individuals that applied within the last few months. But some of those I have not recontacted because they are like repeat people that put in every 2 months and then don't show up for an interview or don't show up for the fitness test or whatever. So I don't really see anybody on that old list that we had as a viable candidate. This new list, since Jeff refreshed the information on the internet, we've got, again, those applicants, and so I've got a handful of people still to reach out to. But these 2 that I just reached out to are off this refreshed list, so they just applied in the last week, and we set them up with interviews, and again, one canceled and one didn't show up. No call, no show.
And, when we started this whole conversation, sat down and met, I think we were sitting at 17, actually.
Yeah, it was
17, 18.
It was in the teens.
And,
yeah.
That number is, that when you start talking about that number of staffing, that was a concern, just for, 17's a lot different than 21.
It is.
I mean,
agree.
and I'm glad you're at 21. Thankful.
Amen.
What other questions?
that's kind of where I was going back to. So we are concerned about liability. So when you're short-staffed, I don't know what you all do down there, but it seems to me like we're more open to more liability if something can happen if you're short-staffed. I don't really know what that looks like. I'm not down there daily, but I know you've described how you've struggled to keep your shift numbers up,
Right.
people there. You're using part-timers, you're using yourself or whatever, various ways you've been trying to do that, and you're still really tightly staffed.
Yes.
with a lot of inmates and a lot of issues. To me, that is a huge liability that's going on daily. But that's a daily thing. No matter in my mind, no matter what the staff. If you're perfectly staffed, we could still have issues. But I see that being strained when even though we're up to 21.
Well, I do see, or at least it's my opinion, that if staffing levels are low or very low, and you're causing your staff to work with less than what you would normally have working on the floor. You're working with the bare minimum staffing levels as opposed to having a little bit of extra help available. It's putting more on the staff during the shifts, the shorthandedness, just having the staffing levels to cover the shifts. If somebody calls in, then we're calling people, trying to get them to come in, and that's almost a constant thing right now. Almost every day we're calling the staff members, hey, can you come in? Can you stay late? Can you come in early? And asking them to work overtime. We don't have a mandatory overtime policy down here. Fayette County does. But all the overtime that they're working, I think, and burning them out, wearing them down, I think it increases the liability.
So, and that number, remind me, is 4.
Yes.
Okay.
4 is the minimum that we have to have.
Okay.
Do you have days where you can't get that, or?
Not yet. If it comes down to where we can't get staff, then the administration is stepping in to fill the gaps.
How often does that happen?
Every couple of weeks.
Comments or other questions?
So I want to continue on.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry, Rick.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way. I said it that way, but I didn't mean it. I've got a thought process and I kind of want to work through because I've listened to all these comments. It's good stuff. It's got to be considered. And going to Chad's point, or one of his points, was that, we're 1 to 2 months away. You are starting the process of our next budget cycle. And so, but that's 6 months out or almost 7 months out from actually we're going to vote and put a new, if we give raises, whatever we do, that's July. So we're 6+ months out from getting that done. And I understand, I don't remember who made the comment, but several of us have, it will affect the other departments, whatever we do, if we give a raise, if the court votes that way this morning. I get that. It will cause some tension there too. But when I try to put it all together, I think we got to do something. I mean, we've asked the jailer, you've done a lot of work. The jailer's done some work on like the SOPs, looking at the staffing, trying to make the numbers crunch and make them work. I think at the least, in my mind, we've got to do something today to try to make it, and I don't know if it'll work, but I know it sounds like what we're doing is not working. It's not attracting that many people, because it was an interesting comment you made that you've got a list that those people keep. You've got some names that kind of keep reapplying, I guess. I don't know what that process looks like, but it reminds me of there was a time in the past at our company, we used to get a lot of phone calls. They really weren't looking for a job. It's just something they had to do to keep their unemployment going. I don't know if that's still the case today or not, because we don't have anybody call anymore. Nobody's looking to work, I don't think. But years ago, we used to have that, and it would be a revolving set of people. And that was what we think they were doing then, whether we had work or not. They really didn't want a job. They just wanted to be able to put that on a list. However that worked then to get your unemployment. That's been years ago.
And that's honestly how we feel this group of however many applicants it just continually kind of self-holistically applies, that they're gaming the system somehow. Because they're not following up with phone calls, they're not following up with coming in for an interview or the fitness test or whatever.
And we have done, the court has done a ton of work, and I think the jailers acknowledge that. And I've heard staffers acknowledge that to me through the years. They're thankful all across the board in all the departments. Folks have been thankful for what this court's done. And $5, almost $5 an hour is huge. And when I thought about that over the last week or so, it kind of tells me, well, I won't go there, but we're here today, in my mind, at a minimum, we should really consider the 28 cents to get it up to that.
Anything else from you?
No.
Mr. Lyons, I know.
Yeah, I just want to comment, the jailer mentioned Woodford County being 1850, but if you take into account I know people don't look at benefits, but if you take into account their insurance package, they're actually making 20 cents. If they're taking an employee-only plan, they're making 20 cents less an hour than our folks are.
And I appreciate
If you go
that.
to family, it's $1.30 an hour less than our people are.
I just feel.
But we've got to, I know people don't look at that,
And
but.
I completely appreciate your statement on that. I just feel the driving force is how much they're making on the hour for the individuals that are applying.
And they're probably not on hazardous duty, which is another huge benefit. It's a
agree.
huge cost to us, a huge benefit to them, but I know maybe it's marketing, maybe we've got to have some more options in our insurance plan going forward. We can't do that today, but we've got to find other ways to make that work.
I agree.
So with that said, anyone else want to make any comment or ask any questions? We have chewed on this pretty good. So the rubber hits the road, and you need to call a question if somebody wants to make some type of motion.
I'll make a motion that we increase it 28 cents hour, which would be $17 an hour.
And adjust the SOP to 26.
That's right.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
We have a second. Any other questions or comments? I would call for a roll call vote.
Who seconded that?
Kelly.
Mr. Hostetler?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Corman?
Yes.
Mr. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Davila?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston?
No.
Judge Covington?
Yes.
Motion
So, just to clarify, that's 28 cents. We're reducing from 30 to 26, which keeps us under budgeted, budgeted staffing dollars, and that's for the remainder of this fiscal year. So, David Livingston.
What about the adjustment for the rest of the staff? Because now we have compression, because we've not done anything for the rest of the staff within the jail.
I thought we adjusted it.
Your motion for all employees,
No, just for
for the new hires or all employees?
the jail.
Right, but I'm saying all employees of the jail.
All
not
deputy
just new hires.
jailers and,
Correct.
and,
That's what I wrote down.
and
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Sorry.
all deputy jailers or,
And does that include the maintenance?
My
no.
motion was for 28 cents for all jail employees, or not my motion, my vote.
Okay.
You want
Now-
to
28
re-vote?
cents,
I'm
all
not sure if
bands.
everyone.
Well,
All bands.
Mr. Broyles has one other question.
Just for clarification, if it's for all employees, that includes a maintenance position down there.
Yeah, the whole, for me, it's the whole jail. Your whole department that you
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah.
Is that David Davola's motion?
Yes,
Did you hear him, Dave?
yes. My motion is for the jail itself, the employees,
Okay.
not any extra departments.
And that was your second. Kelly?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would anybody like to re-vote because of that question? David's question.
Well, I thought we were going on that column that you said current plus 8,
Yes.
28 cents an hour, and that basically
Yeah.
covers everybody down there.
My understanding was it was reducing from 30 to 26, and it was for 28 cents for the rest of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and that's that column that, in that email, maybe we should have stated it that way, but, because Michelle gave us,
I noted it that way.
Well, I believe that if there's no other questions, and we're going, David, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it doesn't change my vote one way or the other. I just want to make sure if we're doing it, that it's fair to all the employees down at the jail.
Yes, sir.
John, to make
David?
David, I think, since the magistrates be, doing a new budget next year, then give raises to those, in the other departments. We're only talking
If
about.
it justifies it on a market-based salary study.
And Jeff, if you'd like to speak to this, you'll be looking at market data.
Yes. The plan was every 2 years to do a refresh of the data, and this would be the year we would do a refresh. So look at all the market data for all positions.
This will be a refresh, and we'll be looking in March. Like we'll start digging in February, won't we?
And we'll see what happens. It could be that with the market challenges that all detention centers are facing, perhaps this is a widespread issue, and then this will just be absorbed in whatever market analysis and updates we do for July of 2023.
Now so that clarifies for everybody that, the process is a biannual, and we'll be digging in again across the board, not just we'll be going across the board. Yes,
I think this is special circumstance. He's needing help. Not, the other departments, I guess they're operating smoothly right now. So I think we need to do that.
Well, the data reflects there's 60% turnover, and it is a different situation. But it makes me feel like we're still being physically responsible because we're going from 30 to 26,
Exactly.
and we're staying in our budgeted dollar amounts. So we will move from that budget or that agenda item.
Thank you very much.
And we'll move from there.
Appreciate it.
Annual holiday schedule. I don't know if you all took time to review this. I've gone down through it, Scott County government observes holidays accounting to 11 and a half days for 23, 12 and a half days in years there's a presidential election. That'll happen in 24. A paid leave annually. And then the list, New Year's Day, January 1st, observed on January 2nd. Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 16th. Good Friday, half a day on Friday, April 7th. Memorial Day, Monday, May 29th. Independence, July 4th is a Tuesday. Labor Day, Monday, September 4th. Veterans Day, Friday, November 10th. Thanksgiving will be November 23 and 24, Thursday, Friday. Christmas, Monday and Tuesday, the 25th and 26th. And then next year, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day will be actually observed on January 1 and Tuesday, January 2nd. So any questions or comments about that, Alvin?
Yeah, does this match the state schedule? Because I know the clerk's office, they can't work when they're shut.
It is
Okay,
the state
okay.
No, that's a great comment to make sure everybody understands it.
Jeff's gonna send it out next week.
Okay, thank you. Would there be a motion to adopt this?
Motion to approve.
Motion, second from Mr. Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I would like the court to consider changing the meeting from December 22nd to December 21st at 10 a.m. We will start our business meeting at 10 a.m., and I am going to work to make that agenda a short list. Now, as I said earlier, I am going to try to schedule, and I am scheduling 9 a.m. on the 21st, swearing in of any newly elected officials and anyone that needs to be sworn in. I've talked to Judge Maddox. I've talked to Judge Gabhart. I need to reach out to our district judges, and then I've been contacted by constables. I've talked with Sheriff Hampton. And Stacy's, every elected official has to be sworn back in, and I believe Mr. Jones and myself and Ryan Pratt and David Livingston were at a newly elected officials conference yesterday, and Rich Ornstein highly suggests and recommends not waiting to January 1, doing it prior, and that's why I'm trying to be efficient and doing it on the 21st. I think it makes sense to do that. And then the other thing that was mentioned is that we have to appoint, the whole list of those that need to be appointed on a new term. Road supervisor. It was even mentioned yesterday, and I want to look into this, a dog warden. We have animal control, but dog warden was mentioned yesterday as well, and I know we've done this in the past, but 4 years goes by, your memory.
But that'll be at the January.
That will be at the January meeting, and Stacy mentioned that. So, would there be a...
Joe, can we ask school board members to come to that?
Well, I yesterday there was I spoke with Billy yesterday, and we were going to have the 2 new school board members come on the 21st. Well, KSBA has said to the school board members, do not get sworn in before January 1. Why?
So it's optional.
So I'm coming to the school board member meeting on January 5th, and I'll swear in the new 2. That's what Billy's requested. So I'll do that. But what we do on the 10th is anybody, newly elected official, bring your family. We'll swear you in. Judge Maddox is going to be here. He's going to do some of them as well. And we'll do that at 9 a.m., have that done before 10 a.m., and then start the new business meeting at 10 a.m. on the 21st. Would there be a motion to do
I had a
that?
question. Even though they're sworn in, they won't actually take office till January.
January
It doesn't
2nd.
change it. Okay.
Yeah, January 2nd. Motion? Is there a second? Second. Any other questions or comments? 10 a.m., our business meeting. The swearing-in ceremonies will be at 9, separate. So we've got a motion, we have a second. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. County Attorney, part-time victims advocate position, Jeff.
Yes, I shared an email with you on Tuesday just regarding a existing position. It's a, I don't know, and Cam, you can share with whatever you want to here,
Sure.
but we had an admin assistant position that was in the office when Rand was county attorney. That position was then shared with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and what Cam has now done is just reevaluated the needs of the office and would prefer that that position just be repurposed as a part-time victims advocate position. So he's not establishing a new position, it's just the retitling of a position, repurposing of the position, and the funds for that position. Anything else that we need to add, Cam? That
No, you've covered it.
I think the motion will be then to change the title of a position, is that right?
Yes, I don't honestly recall, it was an administrative assistant position or
Right.
something that would be retitled as a part-time victims advocate.
And I guess I should add the clarification that that was a benefit eligible position, so with it moving to a part-time status, one, you have less money being spent on wages, and there's no benefit cost, no retirement, no health insurance cost that goes with that position either, if it remains at part-time.
Correct.
Now, if you do not have any success in filling that with an adequate staff member
Then
at
we
part-time,
might have to
then
come back to you.
we might have to come
Yeah,
back and
that's
say,
correct.
let's make it full-time.
That's
Right.
correct.
But the money's still there, though.
The money's still there, yes.
Yeah.
So
If you-
even
if
if
we
you make
had-
it
We're not
full-time-
changing any budget.
No.
Right.
Is there a motion?
I had a question,
Oh,
Judge.
I'm sorry, Chad.
Yeah, so we give money now to the folks right across the street here, I think the city and the county, and Cam helped me out here, for an advocate, currently,
Is that CASA?
maybe it was Costa.
No, court-appointed
Yeah.
special advocate, that's
Yeah.
CASA, and
Yeah.
we do give $20,000.
Right,
Those individuals work individually and are assigned
Yeah.
to minors.
okay. So
Yeah,
I
this
just
is
want
for
to
like
make sure they
family
weren't.
court for
we're-
abuse and neglected
Yes.
children. Yeah.
This is for abuse and neglected children.
Gotcha.
And those individual advocates work individually and are signed by CASA.
I just want to make sure
No,
we were duplicating.
great
Yeah,
question.
the main function of this person would be, they would work in our office and they would, contact victims of crimes at the outset of cases, try to keep in touch with them as it goes on. That in a nutshell.
Okay.
From
Yeah,
the start.
it's not, yeah.
So
I
it's
just
not,
want-
it's a good question, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
a separate area.
Yeah, okay.
So, any other questions?
I'll
I'm
make
sorry.
that motion,
A
Judge.
motion? Is there a second from Mr. Ellison? Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. This number 17, new business, sick day donation, and I'll let Jeff sent the email. Jeff and I have talked about this. There's a request made. I think it's a legitimate concern, and I would be in favor of the recommendation. Go ahead.
Sure. Once again, I shared an email with you yesterday just regarding this issue. As you know, we established our new policies, procedures, and employee handbook on October 27th. Of course, then when you do that, everything that did exist is repealed. So we have a little bit of a 2-month gap where we really don't have a leave sharing program because we're establishing a sick leave bank that starts on January 1st. So what we have is, I reviewed everything we have going on. We have 2 individuals that will have exhausted their 10 days of time where they have to be without pay before they would even be eligible for donations. So we have 2 individuals that fall into that bracket now. It just didn't happen until this month. So there's been nobody in November. It's just that we have 2 here in December that fall into that bracket, or into in this little gap, if you will. So all we're asking for is, and I'm recommending that we just permit the leave sharing program that we repealed on October 27th just to continue until December 31st of this year. And I think that's a reasonable solution. It helps us just fill the gap, if you will.
It helps employees that
Right.
are in a legitimate situation. Would there be a motion, or are there any questions? In this, the motion would be to,
Extend the leave sharing program until December 31st
yeah,
of 2022.
We have a motion, second, for Mr. Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Any other new business from any court member? Chad?
No, well,
I've got fees, clerk fees, $118,955.79. These were submitted today. Sheriff fees, $31,296.35.
So let the record reflect that. I'd like to show a picture and give the court and the community an update. There you have our wonderful godfather, JR, in the middle. And then you have John Ward, some other staff members. I see Mr. Burke. But you also have a couple of staff members, JR and John. Can you all help clarify the other people in the picture and where you all were? And JR and John, could you all share that? JR, come on up too. JR,
without JR.
Well, I always appreciate JR, and JR never says no. And JR's been very active in just helping with Western Kentucky Relief, Eastern Kentucky Relief, and then went back to Eastern Kentucky. Can you all tell y'all where you all were and when you went?
Well, first of all, we couldn't do it without the approval of the judge and the court, and shows what a great heart y'all got for the people in need and everything, and we just play a little part in it.
That's exactly right.
Thank you very much.
But we were at
But you all put it in action.
We were at Hazard Fire Department. That's the chief and assistant chief there at Hazard that we took the equipment to, and what they will do is they will distribute it out to all the volunteer departments in that area.
And what you all distributed was the compressor, the field station, and then these tanks, the SCBAs.
SCBAs, yes.
And this was all approved, but it took us a while because we had issues with our field station, and
That's right.
all that's been fixed. But I just wanted to circle back to this, and you know, I'm proud that we could help those communities with some equipment that was damaged in the flood, you know, those folks are continuing to have needs, and I'm proud, and I appreciate the court, and I appreciate JR, John, and all the other volunteers that have gone over the past several months, and I'm just proud that we could get this done, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, they were very appreciative. You know, they're still struggling down there. And, equipment that we're basically, replacing, to them, that's very valuable. And they were very appreciative of what we were able to bring them. And they're going to make good use to what, we no longer, had to replace with. So we appreciate you all.
Thank y'all.
Hey, thank you all. Any other member of our audience here today?
Just a couple things. Old Oxford Road, you haven't been on, it's awesome.
JR, Dwayne's talking about Old Oxford.
It,
It's coming up. I know they didn't get all the way finished, but it looks great.
it's basically finished. They gotta do some striping and,
It looks awesome.
yeah.
It's so much different.
It is,
It's so much better. It's so much safer and easier to drive. The buses and everything.
Yes.
It's all good. And the soccer field complex, it kind of came together there here.
JR and I went out there Monday for an update, and JR's got a key.
It's sharp.
Like anybody that has time, call JR and slip out there.
It's sharp.
That building, I am so proud of that building, and it is nice, and we've done it without breaking the bank. I think we've done it physically responsible, but it's very nice. And, come spring, JR's got the seed already. Mother Nature did not, we would have wasted our money if we'd tried to put seed with the rain conditions in the fall. Usually, if you seed in the fall, you're going to get about 80% germination. It's so much better. And we'll evaluate things in the spring, and we're going to put more seed on those fields. But we've got the base coat on the parking lot. They'll come back, and they'll put the top coat on. They'll stripe it in the spring. And, you know, I'm just really excited of what's been done out there to help. And then the RFP for the Legacy Trail, Stacy got it in the paper this week. So that process, it's in there today, that process to hire the architect will be started, and then we'll bring that Legacy Trail in there somewhere from the horse park and bring it down there to that parking lot trailhead area. Dr. Wallace has worked a lot on that, and we'll have to reach out to those property owners.
Team
but-
effort.
Yeah, but we're excited about that. So, any other new business? The last thing we have is.
Judge,
Ms.
I had an
Allen.
announcement. The Cooperative Extension Service is hosting an open house on December the 15th, chance to meet with the extension agents and staff. They're going to have activities including cupcake decorating, a hot chocolate barn, swath making, whatever that is, gingerbread barn kits, and crafts. So everybody's invited.
What's the date, the 15th?
15th from 6 to 8.
Sounds good. All right. With that said,
Well,
we-
as a reminder, since, because looking at my calendar, on that same night, there's the EMS graduation from 6 to probably 6 to 8. Same overlap there, but can't be helped.
all right. With that said, then we have to go into executive session, KRS 61 810-1C. Would there be a motion to go into
Is that potential
potential litigation?
So moved.
Motion second for Mr. Hostetler. All those in favor? Any opposed? We'll go into closed session.
Comment, please.
Yes, sir.
Keep waiting on that phone call.